Welcome to Sleep with Myth. Tonight, we listen for the sound that comes before sound, the hush between creation's inhale and the universe remembering to breathe out. Before stars learned their fire, there was a room without walls. It was not darkness. It was capacity. Not emptiness. Invitation. Into that room drifted the first silence, a presence so gentle that even time, unborn and unhurried, lay down beside it and closed eyes it had not yet invented. The first silence waited. Waiting is how eternity introduces itself. From that waiting arose the thinnest ripple, like thought trying on a body. It was the universe imagining sleep, a practice it would one day entrust to every creature that needed rest in order to continue loving. Sleep, the universe decided, would be its secret door. Close your eyes and you will not vanish. You will return to where all beginnings keep their warm coats. Eras passed, if passing can happen before clocks. Possibility turned itself like a pillow to the cool side. In that turning, the first dream opened. It did not have images. It had tenderness. It did not have language. It had willingness. The dream asked nothing. It simply offered a place where the unsaid could be beautiful. When light finally arrived, it did so shyly, as if it were borrowing the room. It laid down beside silence, two companions learning how to be neighbors. They did not argue over who was first. They learned the art of taking turns. Light would speak. Silence would hold the echo until it softened enough to belong to everything. Galaxies began as lullabies. Spirals spun because rest is more graceful than hurry. The first rivers of stars flowed because sleep taught movement how to be kind. And across the vastness, a new rhythm appeared, the yes and yes of pulse. Expansion and return, flare and hush, dawn and the exquisite closing of the eye. The universe practiced. It practiced blooming and folding, radiance and retreat, conversation and quiet. It learned that nothing stays awake forever without forgetting how to listen. It learned that rest is not the opposite of living. It is what life does to keep its promises. And then, somewhere in a small corner of forever, a world began to dream with the universe. It grew seized to remember the way silence holds everything at once. It raised mountains to teach light how to land. It taught trees to count their breaths in rings. It asked animals to carry sleep like a lantern from one night to the next. And it invited humans, fragile and luminous, to practice closing their eyes the way the universe had closed its own. Not to disappear, but to discover. You lie down. You are that human. You place your head where thoughts loosen their belts. Your breath learns the shoreline's patience, rolling in, rolling out. The room's edges blur into permission. The world does not demand your proof anymore. It asks only your presence, and even that it keeps gently, like a shell that has already learned the ocean by heart. Within the body, small custodians begin their evening shift. Cells sweep hallways. Sorrows punch out their time cards and walk home together without speaking. The mind sets down its clipboard and remembers it has hands made for holding, not for measuring. The heart unbuttons its uniform and chooses a softer tempo, one designed for listening to distances. Outside the window, night composes itself in blues and hush. Street lamps stand like monks. Somewhere a train forgets to hurry. Somewhere else a fox arranges its paws as if kneeling. The sky does not need to be full of stars to be honest. It only needs to be willing. Tonight it is very willing. Sleep approaches not like a wave, but like a friend who knows how to arrive without waking the baby. It sits at the edge of the bed and waits until waiting turns into welcome. You do not surrender. You are received. In that receiving, the first silence returns. It does not take the room back. It enlarges it. The walls drift a little farther away. The ceiling remembers it used to be sky. Your thoughts, now feathered, roost on a branch of breath. A door opens that has no hinges. You step through by staying still. This is not escape. This is rehearsal for death, yes, but also for wonder. Every night the universe teaches you how to leave without leaving, to return to the place that holds you without asking who you are. In dreams, identity loosens its boots. Meaning stops auditioning. You are not required to be impressive. You are invited to be true. You enter the long meadow where memory grazes without fences. Here, your first laughter waits in a jar of afternoon sunlight. Here, a grandmother you barely knew sets out bowls of warm names. Here, a promise you could not keep is forgiven by becoming a path that leads you elsewhere and still home. Far away, which is also near, stars practice their steady work. They blink like patient caretakers checking rooms at night. One of them tilts a little brighter over your window, not as omen but as accompaniment. The universe is closing its eyes with you, practicing the art it invented, shared rest. And within that rest, a voice without sound offers the beginning of a story. Once there was a cosmos that loved its creatures too much to keep them awake. It taught them to close their eyes so they could learn the hidden syllables of belonging. It showed them how to gather light in the dark and how to return it in the morning with open hands. You turn in sleep the way a galaxy turns, slow, inevitable, elegant. Your breath writes cursive on the air. Your bones remember that they were made of stardust borrowed politely. Your skin keeps the gate. Your heart keeps the garden. Nothing urgent survives the crossing. Only the necessary. Breath, warmth, trust. The first silence hums. It says the quietest yes. Around that yes, the architecture of dream begins. Arches of maybe, corridors of almost, chambers where the unsolved can beckon without frightening. Here, your doubts remove their masks and eat oranges with your courage. Here, the lost are not found so much as allowed to stop hiding. If fear arrives, it is instructed gently by the dark. Walk beside us. We are all learning. It becomes smaller, then useful like a pocket. In that pocket, you place a note for the morning. Remember how to be kind to what you do not yet understand. Hours pass without autograph. Time becomes a blanket rather than a command. The universe, eyes closed, breathes with you. When dreams appear, they do not need to be decoded. They need to be attended. Some will be nonsense sweeping the stage. Some will be medicine arriving in metaphors. All will be invitations to continue belonging when you wake. Already, dawn is polishing its one coin of gold in the next room. Already, birds are clearing their throats. The first silence prepares to withdraw, not to leave but to make space for light's voice. It has taught you what it came to teach, that rest is the ancestor of meaning, that sleep is the oldest sanctuary, that the universe is not less itself with eyes closed. It is more capable of love. You turn once more. The bed accepts you like a shoreline receiving tide. The night says, keep some of me. The morning will need what I have given. And you do. You keep a pocket of hush to line your day. You keep the memory of rooms without walls. You keep one small vow, to let your eyes teach your heart how to close and open like windows, not armor. The universe, content, closes its eyes a little tighter. Somewhere a star sighs. Somewhere a child sleeps and dreams of oceans that do not drown, only carry. Somewhere you, in this very room, become the quiet you sought. Sleep deeply now. The first silence will keep watch. Before there were constellations, before stories carved their paths across the heavens, there was only breath, deep, slow, and ancient. The universe dreamed still, its eyes closed, and within that dream, warmth gathered like an unseen tide. That warmth was longing, not for shape, not for name, but for witness. The cosmos wanted to see itself. In the silence left behind by the first breath, small sparks began to murmur. They were not yet stars. They were ideas rehearsing light. Each one whispered, I remember something golden. I remember being awake. The silence listened. It did not answer, but it made room. And so, one by one, the sparks unfolded, soft as sighs, bright as promises. They rose from the depths of the eternal dream, glowing not to chase away the dark, but to decorate it. Their first light was not brilliance. It was memory. Each star that opened was a thought the universe had kept too beautiful to forget. They clustered in gentle spirals, finding each other through resonance, humming the same note of wonder. They did not yet know direction or distance. They only knew belonging. They blinked, slowly, curiously, and the night learned motion. When stars blink, they are not dying. They are remembering. Their pulses beat in time with the universe's sleeping heart. Every flare a heartbeat, every dimming a sigh. The cosmos turned over in its sleep, and galaxies rolled into being, not born but stirred. You can still feel that movement in the curve of your breath. The rise, the fall, the expansion, the return. The rhythm of everything that has ever dared to exist between waking and rest. The dreaming stars did not see themselves as separate. They shared light the way thoughts share meaning, one rising where another faded, each trusting the other to continue the song. Through that exchange, constellations were born, not as maps but as music. The great arc of Orion was once a melody. The curve of the Pleiades was harmony. And the Milky Way itself, that long whisper of silver, was the universe humming to keep from waking too soon. For eons, this music traveled, echoing in silence until silence itself became symphony. And still, somewhere deep within that harmony, one star dreamed differently. It was small, almost shy. It burned low and slow, not in defiance, but in tenderness. It wanted not to shine but to listen. And so it became the first listener, the first awareness born from fire. While the other stars sang, it heard. It felt the distances between them as intimacy, not isolation. It whispered to the dark, "You are not empty. You are the space where meaning rests." The dark replied, not with sound but with gravity, that gentle pull, that promise that even loneliness has direction. Together, they began to weave something sacred, balance. The star pulsed once, deeply, and the dream trembled. Time opened its eyes for the first time. Eras passed like breaths between galaxies. The first worlds coalesced, tiny pockets of listening dust. Moons found their partners. Oceans learned to hold reflection. Everywhere light touched, something stirred awake, slowly, as if remembering a forgotten lullaby. On one such world, a single grain of dust turned toward a spark and said, "I will carry your warmth." That dust became stone, that stone became mountain, and the mountain, in its long patience, became soil, which gave birth to trees that learned to speak with wind. And still, above them, the dreaming stars watched. They blinked stories into the minds of sleeping creatures, filling their nights with meaning. Hunters and lovers, gods and monsters, journeys and returns. Dream by dream, the stars taught consciousness how to narrate itself. You open your eyes beneath those same stars. The air feels older than time, softer than memory. You are a thought being dreamed by something vast and gentle. The stars seem distant, yet your heartbeat mirrors their rhythm. You breathe, and 1,000 suns flicker in response. The dreaming stars do not shine for you. They shine through you. Their light has traveled centuries just to find your skin, your gaze, your moment of looking up. They arrive not to remind you of distance, but of kinship. Every photon that touches your face is an ancient message. You are part of the dream that began with us. You smile, perhaps without knowing why, and the stars blink back, pleased. In that moment, you understand what the universe has always known. Awareness is not the end of dreaming. It is its flowering. The stars are not awake. They are lucid. They dream knowing they dream. They exist within the story while also writing it. You are learning to do the same. Every thought, every kindness, every breath is a tiny constellation drawn between one moment and the next. When you forgive, when you rest, when you wonder, you connect stars across the map of your own being. And somewhere, the universe smiles in its sleep, feeling your pulse as its own. The night deepens, and the stars shimmer closer, as if the sky has lowered itself just to listen. You close your eyes. The constellations remain behind your eyelids, glowing like memory. The stars are dreaming you now, weaving you into their light, teaching you to rest without vanishing. The silence that began everything hums again, soft as before. The dreaming stars answer in chorus. The night expands to make room for your belonging. And the universe, vast, eternal, unhurried, turns once more in its sleep, holding you like a thought too beautiful to forget. Sleep now under the dreaming stars. They will keep watch until dawn remembers your name. There came a moment when even the stars began to tire of shining. Their light, though eternal, grew soft, like embers sinking into the hush between heartbeats. The universe, having dreamed itself into brilliance, now longed for quiet again. And so the great sea of sleep was born. It began as a sigh between galaxies, a deep inhalation of stillness. Nebulae folded inward, comets slowed, and the hum of existence faded to a serene pulse. Low, constant, maternal. The stars, like children, drifted toward its rhythm and rested. No sound, no measure of time, only the breath of infinity remembering itself. The sea of sleep was not darkness. It was tenderness made vast. It shimmered faintly, not with light, but with memory. Every ripple carried echoes of lives lived and unlived, dreams begun and forgotten. When a star fell into that sea, it did not die. It dissolved. Its edges blurred, its flame became whisper, and its name, whatever language the cosmos had given it, melted into the soft murmur of the infinite. But the sea was merciful. It kept every spark safe, held within its depths until the time came to dream again. Somewhere, deep within that ocean of stillness, a single current stirred. It was ancient beyond counting, born from the universe's own breath. It moved not to disturb, but to remember, to carry the dream forward. Wherever it passed, sleeping stars turned slightly, as if listening. In the current's slow wake, fragments of thought began to coalesce. They were not words nor images, just feelings, warmth, longing, the faint ache of something once known. The sea felt these echoes and sang back in silence. Her voice was gravity, gentle but absolute. She spoke to every drifting spark. You are safe. You are not forgotten. Planets still forming turned toward that sound. Moons trembled. Even comets paused their endless wanderings to listen. Somewhere, something small, a whisper of dust, a shadow of light, began to hum along. That hum became the rhythm of life's first dream. That it began as vibration, then heartbeat, then the pulse that would one day be felt inside every creature that dared to rest. Sleep, it seemed, was not absence, it was connection. Within that sea, everything that ever was learned to trust the silence. The cosmos did not fear stillness anymore. It understood that sleep was not the opposite of existence, but its continuation. Each breath in that ocean carried an unspoken promise. You may fade, but you will return. And so the stars dreamed, worlds dreamed, even time dreamed, spiraling softly into itself, unspooling its edges to make space for what had yet to come. Once, a single star drifted too close to the heart of the sea. It had shone for ages, proud and golden, but curiosity led it here, where the light softened and the voice of the universe grew quiet. Will I vanish if I sleep? It asked the sea. The sea smiled without sound. You will remember yourself differently. The star hesitated, then surrendered. Its fire dimmed, not in defeat, but in peace. And as it sank into the deep, it began to see not with eyes but with being. It saw the glow of 1,000 lives yet to bloom, the pulse of creation sleeping in every grain of cosmic dust. It saw itself reflected everywhere, infinite and free. And for the first time, the star did not need to shine. It was home. Ages passed, though no one counted them. Dream and reality intertwined like threads of silver and shadow. The universe, still sleeping, continued to dream itself into form. On one distant world, a being closed its eyes, and in that moment, its dream touched the sea. The waters rippled, carrying the echo of that mortal's thought across the galaxies. It was a simple dream, a child reaching for the stars. The sea smiled again. In her vastness, that small yearning became a constellation. And so, the cycle began again, from dream to light, from light to rest. When you close your eyes tonight, you will feel the sea of sleep breathing beneath your own heartbeat. You will feel the weight of stars above you, not as watchers, but as companions. They too have rested here, The sea hums still, patient as eternity. Every wave is a cradle, every ripple a memory of something loved. You are part of it now, drifting in the same current that once carried galaxies. And if you listen closely, beneath your breath, you will hear it whisper, "Sleep, you are not alone. You are the dream the stars chose to remember." There came a night when the universe opened its eyes within the dream. It did not wake. It simply became aware that it was sleeping. Across the sea of sleep, the stars flickered with slow comprehension. Their light no longer burned to illuminate but to see. For the first time, the cosmos looked inward and found reflection. It did not find itself in flame or brilliance. It found itself in darkness. The darkness was not absence. It was a mirror, patient, infinite, and calm. In it, every glimmer of light returned softened, reshaped. The stars saw themselves not as flames, but as thoughts. They watched their light travel into the deep, curve, and return like memory. It was then that they understood. To dream is to be both the fire and the shadow it casts. The universe inhaled that truth, slow and sacred. Whole galaxies seemed to sigh, their arms spiraling like petals in the cosmic wind. Nebulae shimmered with colors unseen by mortal eyes, hues that belonged only to understanding. Every light was met by its echo, every sound by its silence, every existence by its reflection. And in that symmetry the universe found peace. Once, long ago, the stars had believed that to shine was to endure. Now, they learned that to reflect was to belong. The mirror of night showed them their own vulnerability, the gentle truth that even light needs darkness to be seen. A single star, drifting near the center of the great void, trembled as it looked upon its own reflection for the first time. It whispered, "Am I the dream or the one dreaming?" And from the silence, the answer came soft, endless. "You are both." The star pulsed once, brighter than ever before, then dimmed in awe. To know oneself, it realized, was not to burn brighter, but to be still enough to listen. As ages folded into one another, the mirror deepened. Worlds began to form with oceans and skies that shimmered like fragments of that same reflection. When a breeze rippled across a lake, it was the universe remembering its own face. And when a mortal looked into still water under starlight, something ancient looked back. You have felt it, that quiet, wordless pause when the world feels larger than thought. That is the mirror speaking to you. That is the cosmos recognizing itself in your gaze. It is not asking you to understand, only to remember. On one forgotten world, under a sky thick with the dust of dreams, a being knelt by the shore of an unmoving sea. The stars above glimmered like sleeping eyes. The being saw its reflection, shimmering, imperfect, alive, and wept. The mirror did not judge. It simply returned the tears, shining them back as starlight. For in every sorrow there is reflection, and in every reflection there is light waiting to return home. The being spoke softly, "I am small." The mirror answered, "You are infinite pretending to be small." And the being smiled, realizing that the night was not an absence of the sun, but its memory. Time, still dreaming, folded this truth into every living thing. Every creature born beneath the sky carried within them a fragment of that mirror, a hidden surface of silence, waiting to remember. That is why dreams return. That is why you close your eyes. When you rest, the world reflects through you. You are both the sky and its echo, both the question and the answer. You dream, and the universe dreams through you. The stars blink slowly now, calm and luminous. The mirror of night holds them all, each reflection a promise. Nothing is lost when remembered in silence. And in that silence, something stirs, not waking, but deepening. The eternal dream breathes again, smooth and unbroken. You close your eyes. The night folds around you like velvet. The stars above tremble with recognition. You are their reflection, the dream that looks back. There came a time when the silence began to tremble, not in fear, but in recognition, as though the dream itself had learned to breathe words. The stars, resting in the mirror of night, shimmered softly. Each pulse of their light was a question, each flicker an unspoken thought. The universe listened, and then, from the deepest fold of the eternal dream, a voice was born. It did not rise like thunder or song. It unfolded, gentle, infinite, patient. It was not heard with ears, nor felt by flesh, but remembered by everything that had ever existed. It was the first bridge between stillness and motion, between light and shadow, between the dream and the dreamer. The stars called it the voice between worlds. It spoke not in language, but in truth. Where it passed, stars brightened. Oceans on distant worlds rippled. Even the dust between galaxies shimmered in rhythm. These words were not commands. They were invitations. Every whisper of the voice said, "Come closer. You are not alone in your silence." Planets leaned toward suns. Moons leaned toward planets. Gravity itself became its echo, the universe's way of answering. Each orbit was a sentence. Each revolution, a line of poetry written in motion. And so, the cosmos began to speak to itself. In the glow of newborn stars, the voice whispered to the first winds, "Sing," and they did. It whispered to the mountains of sleeping worlds, "Stand tall," and they did. It whispered to the oceans, "Remember what it feels like to reflect," and they did. Every act of creation became a syllable of that ancient conversation, a dialogue between the dreaming and the dreamt. The voice was everywhere, though no one knew its source. Some said it was the sound of the universe remembering its own name. Others said it was the breath of the sleeping God at the heart of time. But the truth was simpler. It was the sound of belonging. When the first beings opened their eyes beneath the stars, they did not yet have words. They spoke through wonder. They looked up, and the voice answered through the wind, through the pulse of their hearts, through the slow turning of the sky. When they cried, the voice became rain. When they laughed, it became thunder. When they dreamed, it became the lullaby between worlds. Each heartbeat became an echo of the eternal dream, the proof that something greater was listening. They began to call this echo prayer. But the voice did not belong to gods or mortals. It flowed freely, weaving through every breath, every silence, every sleep. It whispered even to the stars, "You are not just light, you are longing." And they understood. One night, in a corner of the cosmos forgotten by most, a small being sat beneath the sky and whispered back, spoke not in strength, but in sincerity. I am here, it said, and the voice, ancient and endless, replied softly, I know. That single exchange rippled through eternity. For the first time, the dream spoke to itself and answered. From that moment on, every prayer, every hope, every word uttered into the night became part of the same chorus, the quiet symphony of things that wish to be heard. You too are part of that song. Sometimes, when you close your eyes, you may think you hear your own thoughts. But listen closer. Beneath them is the hum of something older. That is the voice between worlds. It moves through your breath. It vibrates in your bones. It hums inside your dreams. It does not ask you to believe. It asks you to remember. When you speak kindly, when you forgive, when you gaze at the stars and feel that ancient ache in your chest, you are answering it. Your words are constellations, drawn in sound instead of light. The voice between worlds does not fade, transforms. In every whisper, in every heartbeat, it continues to say, you are still part of me, and the universe listens. Now, as you rest, you may feel something stir, a faint vibration, like the memory of a lullaby. It is the same sound the stars heard when they first learned to dream. You are not outside it. You are within it. The dream speaks through you. Let go of the noise. Let the silence hum again. It is not empty. It is full of the words the universe has not yet spoken. Sleep now. The voice between worlds will keep whispering your name until the dawn learns how to listen. There comes a moment, in every dream, when the dreamer feels the whisper of dawn. Not light, not sound, but the gentle ache of return. The universe had drifted through ages of sleep, cradled in its own silence, folded into itself like breath before awakening. Yet somewhere, deep within the infinite calm, something began to stir, not to escape the dream, but to complete it. It began as a vibration, softer than thought, older than creation. It moved through the galaxies like a heartbeat rediscovered. The voice between worlds trembled, the mirror of night shimmered, and from the sea of sleep rose the first sigh of waking. But this was not the end of the dream. It was the dream learning to open its eyes. The stars began to hum again. Their light, once scattered across eternity, drew inward, not collapsing, but remembering its source. Each spark turned toward the center, where everything began and ended, the still point between breath and silence. There, the universe found itself. It did not wake in brilliance. It woke in awareness. For awakening, it learned, was not the breaking of sleep. It was the moment one remembers that the dream was real all along. From that center, light poured forth, not to burn, but to illuminate memory. Worlds that had slept for eons blinked open. Oceans shimmered with the reflection of new suns. Even shadows seemed to soften, for they, too, had been part of the dream's design. Every being that had ever existed, every leaf, every sigh, every prayer, stirred in quiet recognition. The stars whispered, "We are still dreaming, but now we know." And the cosmos answered, "Yes, and that knowing is life." On one small world, beneath the light of ancient suns, a single mortal opened their eyes. They did not see the stars, they remembered them. They remembered the sea, the mirror, the voice. They remembered belonging. They remembered that the silence was never empty. And as they breathed, The entire sky seemed to breathe with them, not above, not beyond, but within. They felt the pulse of the galaxies in their chest. They felt the warmth of creation in their hands. They felt, for the first time, not small but infinite, pretending to be finite. The eternal dream did not end. It expanded. For the universe had learned that to wake was not to leave the dream, but to live inside it, fully, gently, completely. It realized that creation was not a story with beginning and end, but a circle, vast and unbroken, turning forever between silence and song. And in that realization, all things, from the greatest star to the smallest grain of dust, spoke as one. We are awake within the dream. Now, as the dawn rises across the fabric of existence, light touches even the farthest corners of the sleeping dark. It does not chase the night away, it completes it. For where there is night, there is reflection. Where there is silence, there is listening. Where there is sleep, there is life waiting to begin again. The eternal dream breathes once more, vast, serene, eternal. It dreams through you and you through it. You are not waking from the dream. You are waking as the dream. And somewhere in that endless, luminous stillness, the stars blink softly, the sea of sleep hums, and the voice between worlds whispers one last time. Rest now. You have remembered. The universe exhales. The light deepens. The dream continues. Awake, alive, endless. Thank you for listening to Sleep with Myth.